conversation one-on-one.
Okay, can I define the terms here?
Yeah, go ahead and define
So
the
the
terms.
premises, I have a couple of premises and a conclusion, and I would like for you to answer this. So humans are subjective entities is the first premise. Second
Okay.
premise is subjective entity is amoral. The last, and I wrote it down, last conclusion from that is humans are going to be amoral, and this is an easy P and Q argument. And so all I want to do is for you to give me a solution to what makes humans immoral, because this is a sound and valid argument. You might be able to try to defeat it, but you're not going to be able to. So this is a sound and valid argument. So go ahead and try to give me a conclusion better than humans are immoral forever. Because my conclusion is humans are immoral forever because they're subjective entities, so we need to rely on an objective entity. Can you give me a better conclusion than that?
Yeah. So firstly, I just want to say that are we trying to evaluate whether objective morality exists, or are you just taking that for granted?
Yeah, I'm just taking that for granted. If you can give me a better solution to this syllogism, I'll accept it.
Right. So the thing is that the problem is that if we're just taking objective morality for granted, then I don't know how to navigate
You're
the
saying we're
conversation.
taking it for granted, but this is something that's in the real world observable. A lot of different religions exist. All of them claim an objective entity. It's something that's observable in the real world. I don't know why you're trying to claim that this is something unreasonable.
So firstly,
Kids believe
well,
in this.
the reason why I think it's unreasonable is because for every religion that's going to claim objective morality, all of them are going to disagree about something fundamentally, right? There's going to be at least one difference in the subjective morality that exists between all these different or the objective
That's
quote
fine.
unquote objective morality that exists. You gotta let me speak. But also too, something that I want to clarify is whenever I said that morality is, I just disagree that there is an objective. Squatch your hot mic.
You get back up on the deck.
Squatch. Anyway, I just disagree fundamentally that there is an objective morality, so I'm just going to reject premise 2 of the argument because to me, I think you have to first show that an objective moral standard exists.
That's
right?
fine. That's my conclusion. You can disagree with my conclusion, but you haven't given your conclusion. My conclusion is to fix humans are immoral. I have an objective entity. Go ahead, you give me your conclusion so I can scrutinize it just like you scrutinized mine. By the way, your scrutinization doesn't suffice. All you said was it seems like it's unreasonable. That's all you literally said there. It seems to you that's unreasonable. I can prove to you many claims of many different years. Traditional morality is always understood that there's an objective entity. Necessarily speaking, I can show you through the thermodynamic laws that because the creation of the universe, it maps out that it necessarily needs an objective entity because the probability states would be way too low, and I can rely on that. I would rather rely on an objective entity that's all-knowing, all-powerful, that exists outside of time and space. This is something very reasonable. I can give you many clues, scientific evidence using for example...
Are you going to keep preaching at me, or are you going to let me respond?
No, yeah, I will. But objective, you're trying to destroy my claim, but this actually doesn't dive at all with the argument. But I am trying to answer what you just said, which is you're trying to destroy my objective entity, which you said it seems to you that it's unreasonable. But actually, I can make it many claims, scientific, logical.
Yeah, once again, I understand
many
that.
different
I don't need you
moral
to
arguments to show you that an objective entity. And actually, you need to not answer if the objective entities exist or not. That's not the argument. The argument is how can you stop humans from being immoral forever? Go ahead.
That's only if I agree that there is an objective moral standard to agree upon, which I haven't.
Can we dive into that
idea? Say what now?
Can we dive into that? Because there is an objective moral standard.
That's what I'm trying to do, but it seems like you're more interested in saying the same things 5 times over than actually letting me respond to you.
Go ahead.
So speaking on whether or not there's an objective moral standard, the reason why I had to clarify that I rejected premise 2 of your argument is so that way we could get into a conversation. Because what I am going to attempt to do is I'm going to attempt to show you that for any objective moral standard that you can find that exists with humans, you can find the same group of humans disagreeing fundamentally about other things. So what I would just say is, and what I'm going to do by showing you that is I'm just going to show you that even though that humans can agree almost universally that one proposition isn't true, or is true, right? That still doesn't show objective morality. It may just show an overlap within a subjective moral framework.
If you do that, you make my point. If you can show that humans can disagree on an actual moral claim, then you just made my point for me. You actually make the second premise real.
How do I make the second premise
Yeah,
real?
can you guys see his conclusion is wrong here? If he
Why are you
can
appealing to the
force
audience? We're
upon me
talking.
that it is true that two different atheistic societies can believe different things on one moral
Atheist
claim,
societies.
like
Any
if they
society.
believe that this is immoral and this is moral, if two different societies, then he just proved that subjective entity is amoral. I never claimed that you are immoral. I'm claiming you're amoral. That means you don't know if you're moral or immoral, and you just proved that to be true. If you are gonna go ahead and prove what you just said, I'm just warning you.
I think his argument flew over your head. I don't even think you understood.
Yeah, I
what he
don't think
said.
you understood what I was saying. What I'm saying to you is that you're appealing to this objective standard of morality, but you haven't established that that exists
If
first.
you
And I'm
claim, okay, the reason I'm appealing to an objective standard in morality because I can understand that two different communities can disagree with one another. That means there is an objective standard of morality. Why are they
No.
disagreeing with one another then? That means
No.
one of
If
them
there's
is
no
right, one of them is
disagreement, it would
wrong.
be objective. It's
Yeah, it
subjective
would-
because of
They
disagreement.
can, yeah, but they can. But if it's the same moral claim, they cannot be both right. For example, if the moral claim is fucking the dead, they cannot
This
be.
is only
one,
if you
let
take-
me finish, please. If one atheistic society believes it's okay, morally correct to fuck the dead because of their witchcraftery, and they give you a justification, and the other society gives you no justification, says it's immoral, which one of them is morally wrong? I want
Menar,
to
I'm
know
going to
that.
take it to a different
Right, so
example. and I'm
someone's
gonna
No,
show
why?
you-
Just respond to this example. I've been responding
Well,
to all your
I am
examples.
going to respond to
We
this
agreed
example, but I'm
that
gonna-
Saunders
Guys,
going to
he
be our
won't.
champion.
He won't actually indulge
No,
with
Saunder.
me at all.
Hold on, stop, Matter, stop. We all agreed that Saunder was going to be our champion, right? I'll just go ahead and start moderating right now. So Saunder, it's your turn. Manar, wait your turn. Go ahead, Saunder.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the same example, but I'm going to put it into a different situation to show you how it's the case that this can't, that maybe this isn't appealing to some objective standard, right?
He's gonna
So let's
fail.
say we have two people who are in a gallery, right? And they're looking at a painting. One of them really likes the painting. He observes the brushstrokes. He likes
All he did was
the amount
change
of paint
the,
that was used. He likes the
debate.
color selection. He likes all these different things about it, right? And then you have a different art critic. And this art critic is looking at the painting and he's like, oh, I think the brush strokes are actually sloppy. I think that the colors don't work together. I think all this stuff, right? The reason why we say that the reason why it's so agreed that art is subjective, but stuff like morals isn't, is because I think that we're working off this framework that objective morality exists first, but I don't think that that's an appropriate thing. And I think by taking it to the art example, we could show that people's moral assumptions or interpretations are going to be like the interpretations of aesthetics, right? So where one person is looking at a painting and they enjoy the way that the brushstrokes play out or the color decision and stuff like that, another might be looking at the painting and hate it for other reasons because they value different things within a painting or within their art that they're looking at, right? I think the same applies to morals, right? So whenever people have two moral frameworks, right, they can agree, like two art critics can agree that one element of a painting is good, right? But that doesn't mean that there's an objective standard that they're both appealing to. It just means that their subjective notions of what is good art overlap in that one instance. I think the same happens with morals. I don't think you've demonstrated that there is such an objective moral standard that both art critics are working off of to appeal to like this idea of like the perfect painting or the perfect color choice or anything like that. And I'm really looking for you to show that to me first.
This is a fallacious argument. He changed the example to try to not explain, and the example he gave me doesn't map onto the example I gave before. He's trying to describe experiences. I'm not trying to describe an experience. I'm trying to describe a moral claim. Of course, I agree with you. Describing your qualia is going to be extremely hard. How are you going to be able to describe your experience of eating an apple? That's almost impossible. I agree with you. You can't describe that in words. So how the fuck? Well, this is not the actual argument at all. This is a very fallacious argument. You went and made a new example. If this is your hero, this is bad. Let's move on. He claims objective morality doesn't exist. Then tell me, if it's true that objective morality doesn't exist, answer this question from the original example. Which group is morally correct? The one fucking the dead or the one that doesn't
Okay.
allow it?
So
God, you don't have to be like that.
So
Okay.
like I said in the example before, right?
That's a fallacious example. Shushi, can you agree with me that this doesn't map onto
no,
my example?
Stop, Manar, it's his turn. You will get your turn after him. I appreciate
Why are you
guys.
moderating if you can just make
Go ahead,
false statements?
Saunder, go ahead.
Motherfucker's
Saunder,
example does not fall in line.
So
Thank you.
No, because
I'd like
here's
to
the
add
deal:
something.
is that whenever you ask me, right, if objective, I think that there's a problem with the question that you just asked me. You asked me if objective morality doesn't exist, which of the two groups is moral?
Yes.
But if
If
objective
objective
morality
morality is
doesn't,
not real, which one of them is
why are you
morally right?
interrupting me? Why are you interrupting me right now? Stop. But if objective morality doesn't exist, then neither of them are going to be morally right, right? It's going to be up to their subjective notions or their subjective frameworks of which they're working within. So somebody may fuck a dead body and think that that's moral under their subjective framework. They may argue different aspects of what is moral to do to a dead body based on their idea of consciousness or like the rights of a human being or what a dead body becomes after it's dead, right? Whereas another person may look at that scenario and they may go, I think that that's inappropriate because I think that it's disrespectful, or they may point to other things, just like in the painting example I gave before, right? So you have two people looking at a thing. There is no objective notion of what is right to do in the scenario, but they're using their own subjective, qualitative emotions and understandings of what they're experiencing to say whether or not they agree or disagree with the behavior or action.
Exactly. So again, you went into the experience, which I'm not talking about the experience at all. I'm trying to say, objectively speaking, actions are not neutral. Action holds inherent value. If you see a homeless person down the street, you don't have to wait for the consequence of you kicking him in the face. Let's say you kick him in the face, and the consequence of that was that he changed his life. He said, "Fuck this! I'm never gonna get kicked again," and he became a multimillionaire. That still means you made an immoral action. Let's say you gave him $1. It's still a moral action, even if it didn't consequate to anything, and he's still sitting in the street and he didn't change his life in any way. Actions are not neutral. You're trying to claim experience. Stop claiming experiences. I don't care about the experience of the action. And I can never look at your intent. Of course, I never would claim the intent of anything. Actions have three parts: intent, action, and consequence. Let's look at the action. You're trying to claim actions are neutral. This is the claim that you're trying to make, is actions are neutral. I can prove they're not. Respond to that, because you will not respond to my claim that there's a moral right. Try to respond to the claim that actions are not neutral. Do you actually believe they're consequentialist?
So what I would just respond to that with is that I would say, firstly, you're asserting objective morality again, which is the thing that we're trying to figure out. But secondly, also too, don't interrupt. But secondly, also too, whenever the reason why I'm appealing to the experience of it is because the action within itself is the experience of the person, but also the perceivement of the action by an external party, right, is what we're talking about whenever we're talking about morals. We're talking about the attitudes or the experience of viewing somebody do an action. We're not talking about the actions within themselves, right? So, like, for example,
Nope.
how do I say this? Like, if you do something in a vacuum and nobody's there to witness it, right? Besides yourself, then all the moral framework that you have to work on is your own. Whereas if you're in a group of people and you commit an action, then the moral intuitions of the other people come into account. But that's an experiential state. That's why I'm appealing to the experience
No,
of
this is
moral
the definition of
intuitions.
morality. I'd already explained to you the definition of morality is that it's detrimental to society and to the individual. That's how we know it's immoral. You have to justify it. And the reason something is moral is because you don't have to justify it. It's actually beneficial to the society. And by the way, you're trying to claim that I made an appeal on objective morality when it comes to that. Maybe I didn't. Maybe the subjective norm and the societal norm, subjectively speaking, in my society was to not fucking kick homeless people in the street. Maybe I didn't appeal to an objective morality at all. Maybe I'm saying this society, you can't kick people in the street, but your society in Canada, you guys kick people in the street and you think it's a moral right to do, and it's your right to do it, and maybe if they're a certain color or whatever. So you can make these. I never claimed a moral, objective moral, actually. So you're failing really heavily here. Maybe soon we can have one of your viewers here try to save you. But basically, you're just consistently trying to obfuscate the actual sincere question here, that you're trying to make it seem like there's no objective morality, but it's clear as hell. Any person in the world that any human being made an act towards will tell you this was a good or a bad action towards me, and I give it a certain value. So inherently, maybe you're right. Subjectively speaking, inherently to every person, it's it's different. But I'm saying that depends on your social conditioning, and that the social conditioning, even though let's say you end up saying murder is actually moral, it's going to end up showing you that it's actually immoral in the because there is an objective morality, and what's going to happen is your whole society is going to falter and destroy itself. It's going to self-destruct because morality is linked to the self-preservation of society. You're trying to say it's not. You're trying to unlink them, but it's clear as day you don't even know the definition of morality.
So, once again, you're saying that objective morality is
You
real.
tried to
but
say
that's-
objective morality. I never claimed for that. I said the societal norm is that we don't kick people in the street. That's not an objective
you
morality.
said the words objective morality. There, it's clear as day that there is objective morality.
No,
You're
this is my
appealing to the-
societal norm. No, this other societies. No, this is subjective society. No.
From your perspective, you're saying that there's a objective morality, is there not?
No, but this is my claim. My answer to humans are immoral. Why are you trying to defeat my answer to humans are immoral? You have to give your own answer. How do you fix humans are
I already
immoral?
taken my own answer. I don't understand
You have to
this.
defeat humans are immoral. How can you fix it? Give me a solution. You're
You
trying
first
to claim
have to
morality is
prove
not
that there's an
objective. I've
objective
given
moral
you,
framework. That's why
guys,
I've been
I've given
waiting.
him
Let's not talk
100
over each other.
examples to prove that morality is objective, and
Hold
he's
on,
still
hold on.
trying to
Stop
claim
yelling.
morality is not
Manor,
objective.
stop yelling. Stop yelling. Let's take turns. Let's try to answer each other. I guess we're in the back and forth now. That's
Well, Shoshi,
cool.
yeah, you need to actually
Manor,
interfere
stop,
when
stop
he doesn't
talking.
answer.
Stop talking. I'm making a point of moderation. Stop talking over me. So try to answer each other's questions. Try not to go backwards. I'm sorry. I don't know who I interrupted. So both of you have the floor. Go ahead.
He keeps saying there's no objective morality. I keep proving that there is, even when the two. Why are the two societies disagreeing with one another then?
Okay.
Why is
Here's a
not
question.
all the societies doing the same moral claim and saying
Cool.
the same moral claim? That means they're disagreeing with one another. That means there's one
Okay.
objective truth.
That's a good question. Sandra, can you try to answer that question?
Yeah, like I said, I think I already gave an accounting for this before whenever I gave the art critic example. It's because you're working within two subjective notions of the data, right? And you value different things within it, right? So like I said, if you have an art critic who appreciates the brushstrokes more than the color choices, right, then that may determine whether or not the certain art critic finds that painting to be more appealing or more good, a good piece of art, right? And I think the same thing happens. For whenever we talk about morals. I don't think that there is the subjective notion that you're talking about, and I've been waiting for you to actually prove that. But instead of proving that, you're just pointing to examples of where people disagree, but I don't think that that shows that there is an objective standard.
This is hilarious. He keeps saying there's no objective standard. I can prove that
Well, there was
subjectively
a question
speaking.
there posed, Manar. Can you
Huh?
try to answer Sandra's question now?
No, but he did fall for the trap. His own claim proves my actual
Well, no, this
argument
is what
is
we're-
true, that humans are immoral forever. He himself can't even make an objective, a subjective even claim on what is morality. He can't even claim that, let
I
alone
think
make
he
an
just did.
objective claim. And he's going to try to tell you guys there is no objective
Maybe
truth in the
Sandra
world.
try to
Let me ask
reframe
you
it in the
this.
form of a
Let me finish,
question.
please. Let me ask you this. Do you guys
Well, it
actually
didn't seem
agree
like
with him
you
that there is
answered
no
Sandra's
objective moral
question.
truth? Is this actually something that you guys are dabbling with? So, for example, charity is only good
So hold on.
when the
Manar,
consequences
Manar,
of
hold
it
on,
is
hold on.
good.
Manar, hold on. Sandra, can you try to reframe that in the form of a question?
Yeah. Bernard, how does two people disagreeing upon a moral action prove that there is an objective moral
They
standard?
prove that they both don't know that they're moral or immoral. That means they're both immoral.
So
Because
since
that
this is
it
the
proves-
Doesn't
back and
seem
forth, you
to
can
establish
do-
what you want to
Yeah, go ahead.
establish.
I don't understand. I don't think. Can we get a definition from you what like amoral is? Because I don't think you're using
Amoral
it as
is
a proper
not that
term.
immoral is not that he is just not feeling morality. Amoral means he doesn't know if he's being moral or immoral because they're literally disagreeing with one another. Subjective, like he will eat the McChicken. He won't know it's bad for him until it hurts him. He needs to experience the hurt first, or somebody needs to guide him and tell him. That's why he's amoral, because he's necessarily limited in knowledge and he doesn't know if it's hurting him or not until it gives him the hurt. So I'm arguing if he doesn't want to get hurt, there's an actual guide. Somebody will tell you. There's a doctor to talk to.
So, you mind if I jump in and just like try to offer some clarity on some of the terms being used? It'll take.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
because
at
I don't
least
think
when
you're
people
using
talk
the word
about a bit here.
Yeah, I don't
Sorry,
think
go
he's using
ahead.
the word. I don't think he's
Loco,
using
and
the
then make a
word.
point of moderation.
Yeah, I don't think he's using the word immoral correctly. I mean, immoral just essentially means, like, for instance, a lion eating a gazelle. A lion doesn't particularly, as far as we know, doesn't particularly know whether or not, like, the killing of that animal is either a good or a bad thing, right? The moment a human decides
This is
that
bad
like we
argument,
shouldn't
guys.
like kill each other,
Okay, I'll
right?
change
It
the word.
now
I'm okay with that.
becomes moral, right? Now when two societies disagree with each other, right? That's just a disagreement between two societies and not necessarily them being amoral because they can't come to terms with what like with which moral is more correct, right? The fact of the matter is they still have morals.
I
Even if
literally
their
just
morals
defined this, and I
Hold
defined
on.
it exactly like you
Let
claimed.
Chiloko finish.
even if their morals clash, for one society thinks that murder
But
is
that's
good,
exactly what I
and the
said.
other hold on, and
Hold
the
on.
other and
Gotta
the other
finish up.
society, yeah, and the other society thinks that it's bad,
What? This
right?
is
Or,
not a
like
gotcha.
both of them still hold morals, so they are not amoral. Neither
This is
one
not
of
a
them are
gotcha.
Okay,
amoral.
Manar, hold on. Manar, hold on. I'm going to give you the floor just a second, but just a point of moderation. Sure, we can. I'm sure many of us are chomping at the bit to jump in here. However, we did choose Sonder, so I want to give Sonder a chance to finish
Yeah.
their lines of questioning and so forth. But Manar, you get to respond to Jiloko, and then Sonder, you can go after Manar. And after that, I'm sure we're all capable of contributing this conversation without like me having to moderate, as long as we're willing to take turns and not speak for too long. Okay, that's my point. Manar, you've got the floor.
I already explained what the word amoral, how I'm using it, and it's exactly the same definition you gave. You tried to say amoral is animals, and I acknowledge that. Yeah, I mean, no, like amoral is somebody that doesn't even feel morality. I acknowledge that that might be how it's used, but I also acknowledge the way I'm using it today in this scenario, because there is no better word. Go ahead and give me another word that actually describes what I'm talking about. Abmoral, maybe, I don't know, but the what I'm talking about is you wouldn't even know. Like, you want to be moral, you want to do the right thing, you want to go and have sex, for example, but you don't know what age to do it necessarily with. When do you start? You're not necessarily sure. Like, you need to be guided. Like, this is what I mean by amoral. Not that he doesn't feel it. He can feel morality. Is a very distinct characteristic that only the human species can do. But it's that he doesn't even know if he's moral or immoral. So go ahead, give me the word that best describes that. I couldn't find it in the English language. That's why I'm using this word. But if you can find it, I'm gonna go ahead. But this, by the way, doesn't defeat my contention anyway. He's just a. I know what he means. He just doesn't understand the word I'm using, or I'm using the wrong word. But I couldn't find a better word. Go ahead, look it up in the English dictionary.
Okay, thanks. Sonder, did you want to respond to any of that?
I just wanted to bring it back to, I don't think that we've I once again don't believe that we've established that there is an objective moral standard in which we could evaluate whether or not people are being
I don't have to
immoral.
establish that. The second I show you two different societies disagreeing on the same moral action, that proof that there is an objective.
And yeah, I understand that contention as well, but the thing is that they don't say that they don't have that they don't know that they're being moral because they disagree. In
What
fact,
an
they
amazing
disagree.
debate. I
They
destroyed
disagree
these
on the
guys.
fact that they think
Another
the other
day.
person is acting immoral.
Another
right. So it's
destruction.
not that they don't have moral knowledge, or it's not that they don't believe that they don't know what the correct moral action is. It's that they disagree that the other person does. That's the whole point, right? But this still doesn't say whether or not there is an objective moral standard to appeal to in the first place.
I'm open to taking questions from the viewers because he didn't give me a question.
Dude, so all we're saying here is you have two societies, right? And they both claim to have morals. One group A, right, says that, banging dead people is good for whatever reason, right? And they have their own subjective reasons to that. Group
they
B says
justified
that
it.
it's bad, right? The group B says that it's bad, right? Both of them hold independent morals, right? They have morality, right? Their morality is subjective to each one, right? The good or the bad doesn't necessarily matter to them, right? Because they hold these morals subjectively.
Can I ask you a question? How do you know that it's actually
Now,
only subjective to them? Because let's say, for example, they assimilate to your society. So does that mean that their distinct group can be amoral or immoral in that way and have sex? Like, would your society just allow them to have sex and for that this distinct group?
It would be immoral to us. However, it would not be immoral to them.
Yeah, so if they assimilate to your society, you would allow them to have sex with. You would be
No,
forced
because
to allow
my
them.
individual.
No. Let me
Because
finish. You would be forced to allow them to have sex because it's
I know what you're
immoral to
asking.
you, but it's moral to them.
Yeah, no. So we wouldn't. So
But
we
then
wouldn't
you're.
allow them. Hold on.
It
We
sounds like
wouldn't
there's an
allow them.
objective
We wouldn't
morality.
allow them.
Whoa.
We
Bernard,
wouldn't
stop with
allow
that.
them.
Stop.
Whoa.
We
I think
wouldn't
it's
allow
Jaloko's
them.
turn.
I'm just
Yet.
saying, be careful. You might make
We
my point for
wouldn't
me.
allow
Don't
them.
just say be careful. It's Jaloko's
Yeah,
turn.
you gotta learn to stop doing that, dude. I know you have a low EQ or high EQ, right? Like you gotta control those emotions. So, so the thing is, right? If they came to our particular land, where our individual morals basically proclaim that you cannot have sex with the dead, right? Then it would be immoral within that particular society for their own reasons, right? Now, whether you could simply say, right, that the reason why we don't the reason why we don't allow this is because like you can get diseases from it, right? However, it may not be the case that that other society, number one, doesn't have some way to, like, let's say, stop those diseases from happening, right? When they do the act, right? So for them in their society, it isn't a big deal because they know how to essentially reduce their chances of getting a disease, kind of similar to like having sex out of wedlock, right? Like a lot of people say, oh, if you're a whore, you're going to get STDs, and it's a bad thing because you spread those STDs. But if you use safe sex practices, right, you're not going to be spreading those STDs as much. And just the simple fact that you're having sex with another human being, right, means that you still have a chance, even if it's just one person to one person, two person, right? So morals, right, are on a spectrum of what they see as good or bad, right? For instance,
yeah.
murder. So, for instance, murder may be good in some societies. They may deem it as good in some societies, right? Like, I don't know, maybe they do like a purge because there's just too many fucking people, right? So, like, just wantonly killing people until there's enough. There's only a certain amount left, which means that now you have more resources for those that thrive, right? May be a good thing in the eyes of that particular civilization, but bad in our eyes.
Okay, so you just proved that there is no subjective moral framework. So I don't know if you're actually on my team or against
What?
me, but let me explain. This is how you did it. You would force your morality upon the new assimilated group, and I want to know why, and I will answer this why. It's clear you're going to do this because you define morality as whatever is non-detrimental to society, like consequentially speaking, is not detrimental to society. It's whatever that doesn't lift up my society up, then I'm not going to allow it. That's why you force that upon them. If you can say that and define morality in that way, that means objectively speaking, whatever helps society and builds it up should be the objective moral claim and the objective moral right, and whatever
Incorrect.
destroys society. Because other than that, let me ask you
Okay.
something. Other than that, why are you not allowing them to be immoral? Why won't you let them fuck the animals and the dogs? Because you know it's gonna destroy your society afterwards.
What?
Maybe not directly, not
Straw man.
immediately, but you even claimed it. Let me finish, guys. You
Wait.
even claimed
Yeah,
that
but
there's
stop
gonna be
telling me.
STDs. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was a
Would
straw
there
man.
be
Hey guys,
would there be
he's the only
moral
one that's supposed to
claims
respond,
if there were
please.
no humans?
He's the only one that's supposed to respond. I'll
You
talk
know.
to somebody else.
No, it's the floor is open. Let's just take
Yeah,
turns
the floor
now.
is
Guys,
open,
I want
but
somebody to say
was-
I defeated you and I will be calm.
Hold on, dude.
How?
No,
I
it's
guess.
not going to happen. But
So-
Why?
but
I'm being the most rational person in
I
this room.
guess you don't want to hear an answer.
Go
right?
ahead.
You're just gonna
I
skits
mean,
out.
it's not going to
So-
be suffice, but go ahead.
Reap, wait.
Okay, well, that's.
I mean, he's getting an-
because you're arrogant.
Reap.
So, so what you were. All right. So when it comes to us
Again, we
forcing
are
our
undefeated in
morality
this room.
onto another
Undefeated.
society, right? If I go to that other society, right, and essentially the society that allows it, and I enforce my morals onto them, right, and I say, hey. Where over in my other place, we're not allowed to do this. Therefore, you guys aren't allowed to do this because my morality says so, right? Then it's still. I don't understand how would you get an objective
My
out of
brother.
that, right?
My
So
brother,
so
that's
again,
not my
so
point.
so again, no, I understand. Now here's I'm
but you
just
misunderstood what
tackling
I'm
that one
claiming.
thing. But no, you're saying that I'm saying, right?
If you
That-
claim
Let him
that,
finish,
if
man.
you
Let
claim
him
that you
finish.
have to
Gotta
assimilate
calm
them,
down.
Let him go. Go on.
Gotta calm down. So that's just one part of your argument that I'm tackling out of this like gish gallop that you did. So the other part, right, where you said that I want to do like the objective thing to do is like do whatever like flourishing for society, right? For the society. Well, I mean, the best thing to do would be to practice eugenics, right? However, we don't do that, and I don't advocate for that because I think that it's a horrible practice. And the reason I think it's a horrible practice is because society around us says it's not a good thing, right, to try to remove people from the gene pool just because of like their defects, right? We've evolved these morals. However, if we were to practice eugenics,
No answer.
society would absolutely flourish.
I don't know what
So,
this is.
under your objective morals, right, it
What
would
is
be the best and the greatest thing to do for society to practice
To
eugenics.
have one
Do you
morality,
agree with
one
that?
objective morality, yes. No, you're trying to claim eugenics. No, I can show
What?
you. I can show you a family.
What are
No,
you
I can-
talking about?
I can show you a family with two people that have two different morality. What are you talking about? Has nothing to do with eugenics, by the way. It's what you're socially conditioned with. That's what it has to do with, because it has to do with your society. It's morality is directly related to
You're missing the
upon the
point.
individual and
Yeah.
upon the society. That means it cannot be linked to eugenics. It would be linked to the teachings, the environment. It would be linked to something else. It wouldn't be linked to the family and the eugenics. This is a trash argument. You're a trash debater, by the way.
The
Please
point went
to
right
try
over
to
your head,
follow
dude.
the point.
Holy
Fuck's sake.
shit, dude. Like dude, I don't think you
I'm
can like
gonna
grasp
make a point
like
real quick, Jalika, real quick. Manar,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
gonna
go
be
ahead.
like a point against you for incivility. So yelling and name calling is incivil. So try not to accumulate too many bad faith points. Go ahead, Jalika.
Yeah, so I don't think you understood the point whatsoever, right? You're the one objecting for objective, or you're the one basically advocating for objective morality. I'm advocating that morality is completely subjective to the individual, not only to the individual, but to the society, not only to the society, but as far as the world and humans as a whole,
But
right?
that means it's
Now,
subjective.
what you're essentially saying is that there's an
What the fuck?
objective. You're essentially saying that there's an objective morality out there, right? Where there are good things that we ought to do because it would help the individual, help the society, and so on and so forth, right? But like a net positive to society. What I'm telling you is that if that is the case, then certain things that we would practice, right, would be a good thing. For instance, like I brought up before, culling a certain amount of people in order to have more resources in order for the society to necessarily flourish, because we have an overabundance of people taking up resources, would necessarily be a good thing because it would allow the people that are alive to flourish a lot better with those resources. Same thing with eugenics would be a good thing under objective morality. So what I want to understand is, why wouldn't you, as somebody who believes in objective morality, practice eugenics or culling?
What a bad tactic. This doesn't answer my question on humans are immoral. Actually, this is what you guys are going
It's
to be
not
practicing.
trying to. He's trying to bring up
Guys,
a point.
can I finish?
The point's
Can I
going
finish? Who
over
are
your
you?
head.
Who are you? Who are you to interrupt me? So humans are immoral was the argument here. What does me have to do with it? It's actually seeming that you will be the one to create eugenics, because you actually have no answer. For me, all I have to do is say, hey, all of you are guided by this scripture right here. If you are following the scripture, then you are moral. If you are not following the scripture, you're being immoral. What you are claiming is we don't have a standard, we have scripture, so what we have to do is we have to genetically edit these undesirable characteristics out. Actually, this is not the consequence of my society. My society, all they have to do is a little bit more learning. Your society is actually the genetic mutations, genetic editing. That's where it's going to lead. Actually, I don't know how you think you are winning this argument anyway. How are you trying to map on to my society that we're going to
Dude, this is just a false dichotomy, man.
Yeah.
Well,
So again, like I don't understand why you can't track with my example and what I'm giving you. So if there again is
He's trying to act like I'm
subjective
stupid, but he's the
morals,
stupid
right?
one.
Subjective morals would lead to, well, the reason we don't practice eugenics, which is exactly
What's up,
what we
Amity?
do right
Welcome,
now.
baby.
The reason we don't practice eugenics
When it comes
is
to
because
forcing my
it
morality,
causes
I'm the
harm
gangster.
to people, right? To
This
people
is
other
again,
than
they're gonna
myself.
lose again.
I don't want to be harmed in that way, right? So therefore, it is a good idea that we don't practice in this in eugenics, right? Or we don't practice in culling, because I could be the one that gets culled, right? So it's based on the individual. Now, There could be people that say, well, I know that I would end up getting culled, right? And
I refuse to engage with this.
and
This has nothing to do with my debate.
Hold on.
No, I refuse to engage with. I
It
won't
does.
answer this question.
It has
Well,
everything
now you
to
can-
do with your debate.
Make your
Like-
point. Keep a mute for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So it does have to do with your argument, right? Because what I'm showing you is that under a
You
subjective
like my new word?
framework, right,
Gangisterian.
you can come to conclusions, right, that are different from one
Gangsta.
another.
No,
Now,
this is how
one
you have to type
man's
it. Gangster like
immorality is another man's morality. All
Gangsta.
right, like so. Again,
sorry, like
somebody
this.
like I was bringing up the example. Somebody could say, well,
Gangster. Then we can say
I
gangster.
want to be like a utilitarianist, right? An extreme utilitarianist, and I believe that eugenics
This is
is
how
a
it's
good thing.
typed,
Even if
gangster,
I
like that,
get
not like
eugenicized or culling is good, even if
gangster.
I get culled, it is for the greater good. Therefore, we ought to do this thing for the flourishment of our society, and I will be a martyr for that cause, right? So that is their subjective morals, that they are doing a good thing by allowing it to happen, even though it is deleterious to them. Right? Now, both sides have moral values, right? Now, you cannot be amoral if you have moral values. That's not how amorality works. All it is one side views morals in one way, the other side views morals in another way, and it is true relative to them, right? They are the ones that are dictating that their morals are true within their given society or group. Whether or not somebody else disagrees with that doesn't matter. That doesn't make them amoral.
Who's unmuted?
So I don't know. Can somebody summarize what he just said and ask me the question that he wants to claim upon? Because I don't think anyone knows what you just said.
I'm sorry, but if you're not going to listen to people, then we just can't have the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you might as well just stay red mic'd because.
Nice. I'm just asking if any one of the other viewers understood what you said. That's all I want to ask.
Yes. What
Alright, go
point
ahead,
do you need to
summarize
be
what he just said,
clarified?
please.
Well, you could have listened.
No, please just summarize.
Well,
what you said.
hold on. I thought you were had a high IQ.
No,
I
because
thought
I'm
you'd be able
proving to you
understand
that
this.
nobody even knows what he was talking about because this guy is removing the debate. He took it to another dimension.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
Go ahead, describe it.
Yeah, this is what happens when you get backed into a corner. You appeal to the room and then you don't engage. So I'm just going to take this as a win.
I don't think that there is a win. I just think that
How the fuck
he
I'm
just kept
muted?
asserting the same thing over and over and over again whenever we're questioning the second premise of his argument.
And
I just
also
don't.
like his
Everybody
Well, I think Jaloko's point is still like really good. That like if you do believe in objective morality, then you would have to support things like culling and eugenics.
Yeah.
Because
That's a good point.
it would be objectively good, right? And then if you
Right.
say that it's
Correct.
not, then at that point you have to like posit your own subjective views as to why that is, because like practicing eugenics is bad because it harms other individuals. So which one is it? I mean, you have to pick which one it is.
So you're saying.
Do we give him another shot?
So you're saying objective morality has to claim eugenics because this is the objective right. Why?
Correct.
Can we just maybe define some of the notions that are
What
being
the
used
fuck?
here?
Yeah, sure.
He's literally trying to define what subjective morality is. The other
What
dude
the
just is
fuck?
not listening.
Wait,
No,
you're
I do.
actually
Hold
saying-
on.
Let me
I think we
finish,
should
guys.
let Josie go because like he's been.
No,
wanting to
I don't know who
answer.
I'm debating anymore. I need to be debating you. I can't debate 3-4 people.
I'll debate you. It's fine. I just think that it'd be helpful.
Josie, what he just said was objective moral entities or subjective entities that rely on the objective morality are forced to create cullings and eugenics, but I'm not understanding why. He's not making the actual relation between why the objective entity is committing eugenics, because I could claim the same thing. I could say the subjective entities would want eugenics because that's the best way too. So he actually cannot link it to necessarily to be the objective entity. He's linking it maybe to humanity, but not.
Yeah.
I can't see the link to objective entity.
So, generally speaking, if you just take a really rough
And what does this
definition
have to
of
do with the debate?
So
He was just
the
explaining
reason that
it.
it's pertinent is because the terms objective and subjective are the linchpins of your positions, but it seems like there's a lot of miscommunication about what those words mean. So do you think that in the interest of like moving the conversation forward, it would be useful to define what those words
Yeah,
mean?
so objective morality is basically I'm referring to somebody other than me. I'm referring to a scripture. I'm referring to another reference that's not me, my own wills and desires.
Is
That's
it
an
me?
objective. I'm claiming that's an objective entity. Then you guys can scrutinize it, but right now you don't have to. This is a different debate. Right now,
Am I?
what objective means is I'm looking not upon myself and my whims and desires, upon an objective entity. For example, I look at the scripture; it tells me don't have sex with the dead. That's why I don't have sex with the dead. I don't have sex with the dead not because it's better for my society. It's because my objective entity spoke it. Whereas the subjective entity, you guys know what that is. It's limited in knowledge. It's just you are a human. You are a subjective entity.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. A super minimalist definition of like subjective morality and objective morality is that on the objectivist view, what makes moral statements true is going to be some fact about reality, and that fact isn't going to change if some subjective agent comes along and has some attitude about that fact. Conversely, a subjectivist view of morality means that whether or not a moral statement is true
My morality says
is inexorably
gangstarian.
linked to the attitudes, beliefs, desires, motivations
I'm the
of subjective
gangster.
agents, right? Now, it might sound like that's exhaustive of all positions, but there's also people that take positions that moral statements can't be true, right? So there's actually a few positions on the table. The problem, right, with this particular line of reasoning that you're running with here, is that you're citing two moral agents disagreeing as evidence for one of those positions. But moral agents are going to disagree on all three of those positions, right? Even if there are objective moral facts, two agents can disagree on what they are. Even if those moral facts are rendered true just in virtue of the agent's attitudes, then of course disagreement is inevitable.
You're right.
And
You're right.
even if the proposition can't be true, two people could be really confused and be disagreeing about
Humans
it.
are
right?
immoral forever. Yep. That's my
So,
argument.
so the
And
question
the only
is
thing
here.
that can save them is an objective entity that can guide them. For example, let me ask you this: Is it possible that
listen to
jumping out of
anything
the
I
roof
said?
is good for the baby, and jumping? Is it possible that jumping out of the roof and not jumping out of the roof are equally as good for the baby?
What?
I'm
So
asking about
yeah.
the value of actions. The
So the
value of the
question-
action of jumping out of the roof, is it equally valuable? The same value of he jumped out the roof is equal to the value that he didn't jump out the roof in the consequence and in what it did to the universe and the society?
On which view?
In the view, like I'm asking you, the action itself inherently, is there two different values to these actions? So one of them was maybe better than the other?
I don't think inherent value. I think inherent value is a contradiction.
It has to be inherent. It has to be inherent because why else is the baby bad for not jumping out the roof? That means inherently there's something he's shouldn't be doing, and which is destructing himself.
I take value to presuppose an evaluator, so I don't.
So
think
that means it's okay for the baby to jump out the roof. It's a moral thing.
That's not what I said either.
No, that means
I
they're
take-
equally alike to each other. Jumping
Let
out the roof is
somebody
equal to not
finish,
jumping.
for fuck's sake.
Let this dude
I
finish.
understand that you're super passionate about this subject, all right? But your passion is getting in the way of your comprehension, okay? Like, just take a breath, listen to what I'm saying, and then find what you actually think is wrong with what I'm saying and deliver that critique, all right? Instead of just going a mile a minute, all right? So I take value to presuppose an evaluator, right? Like, in order for something to be valuable, there has to be somebody for it to be valuable to. So I don't take value to be something that's intrinsic. Now, do you think that that's nonsensical or incoherent?
Yes,
If
it's
so, why?
nonsensical. It's almost
Why?
like saying the value of kicking this homeless person is zero until I don't know what else claims the value upon kicking this person. Then is it the
value.
consequence of the kicking? Is it your feelings after the kicking? Is it his feelings? What are we looking for to know that this is something that was wrong besides its effects detrimentally or positively to the society? What
Yeah,
else
so
are you
you're
looking
gonna
for?
need- Yeah, so
Determine that there has to be somebody to value those actions.
Yeah.
But this is a different debate. Go ahead.
Oh, that's what
That is the argument that we're giving you.
No,
So,
no,
like,
no.
brought up-
I'm
wait,
talking
wait,
to Josie.
Manor,
One at a time.
hold
One
on.
at a time.
Manor, you brought up the notion of value, not me, right? So if you don't want to talk about value anymore, that's fine.
So
We
no,
can go
I'm
back
not.
to-
I'm actually asking you, what is the value? Why is it wrong for you? Like, what is it? So it's not wrong for the baby to jump out the roof. I'm asking you, is it? Is there an inherent value to
On
jumping
which
out the
view?
roof for the baby? Or
So
no?
on my view, all moral statements are false. Do you want to talk about that view, or are you more
So that
interested
means
in one of the
if
other
the
two?
baby is going to commit an action that might end create its demise or the demise of the society, he's not immoral for doing so.
Correct.
Okay, that's it. That's what I. That's so. Don't claim that I don't follow any of you guys. I'm totally following you. You're the ones not following me. I'm 100% in line with all
Okay,
of you,
hold
and I
on.
know all your arguments and what you're saying. No one is trying to
No.
actually dive into
Hold
my
on.
argument because you guys are trying to claim there's
I
no
do want
objective
to dive into your
morality.
argument.
But when you claim there's no objective morality, what happens is you end up with your own demise.
Well,
You end up with your
I
own demise.
can
So-
have that debate with you that there's objective morality. It seems like you're going to have even a harder time proving that it comes from a deity.
Yeah, and objective entity, no, it has to be coming from an entity objectively because how else? Because the whole argument is subjective entity is flawed. That's the whole argument.
Natural revelation, natural laws.
No, well, you have to
I
prove.
feel like we're getting away from the
But
debate.
yeah, this is totally different. Thank you, somebody recognized it.
So can we go back to so your position is still that objective morality.
How come I can't
is
join
the
that
correct
channel? Here, oh, maybe it's
right?
full. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Is your view that objective moral statements can be true?
Yes, because two people disagree with a moral statement, that's proof that there's an objective moral statement. That's what I
Okay,
claim.
but here's the critique of that, right? In like moral philosophy, moral disagreement, right? This phenomenon of two moral agents disagreeing is going to underdetermine the moral theory because moral disagreement is a feature of moral anti-realism, moral realism, and moral error theory. So you can't cite this phenomenon of moral disagreement as evidence for your theory if it's also evidence for the other two theories. You need something else.
So if two people disagree with each other on the same action morally, and they put different value on that same moral action, you're claiming I cannot from that inherently understand that there's an objective value to that moral action that's inherent to itself. That doesn't depend on the consequence, and that doesn't wait for doesn't care about the subjective entity's influence.
No,
into
what's the inference from two moral agents disagreeing to moral objectivity?
Yes. So if two moral agents can disagree on the same action, this is the thing that changes everything. On the same moral action, that's why I claim there has to be something. Because if there's no objective truth to that, why are they disagreeing? That means either both of them have different definitions. Maybe you're right. Maybe if they were all socially conditioned together to have perfect conditioning to one another, they will agree with one another. But there is something, but that actually is another claim that there's an objective truth, that because they have to agree with one another so they can be in absolute objectivity. You see what I mean? If they don't agree with one another, that means also there's an objectivity because it's the same action. It's not two different. You may be right if two different actions, I can't compare them to one another. But if it's the same moral action, fucking the dead. If one group agrees it's moral, the other group agrees it's immoral, I can from that understand and deductively reason that there has to be one of them that's right, which means one of them is an object. There has to be an objective truth, basically.
No, it doesn't. It could mean that they have two subjective standards and they're just failing
yeah, exactly.
to
Or
understand
it means that both of them are immoral, or both of them don't know if they're moral or not, and that's my argument.
Hold on.
Yes, thank you.
Manner. All right, go back. All right.
Holy
so
shit.
what I asked you was, given the fact that moral disagreement is a phenomenon that's present in all three
I
moral
destroyed them.
theories,
50 minutes you guys have had with me. Go ahead. Actually, an hour, but go ahead.
What's the inference from moral disagreement to moral objectivity, given the fact that all three theories account for moral disagreement?
You're claiming that, but you haven't proved it. Prove that three theories can all be claimed on that one action, the fucking the dead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
That's super easy. So on the objectivist view, the two moral agents are disagreeing. There's a right answer, and they're disagreeing about what the right answer is.
Sure.
On the subjectivist theory, two agents are disagreeing. Both agents participate in the truth value of the moral proposition, so they're both speaking truthfully.
That means there's an objective morality.
And on error theory,
that means that you just proved objectivity.
And on error theory, the statement can't be true, and they're disagreeing because they're
and they both disagree. Yes, exactly. And I'll give you a fourth scenario. Both of them disagree with one another. That's a fourth scenario. Still, it proves that there's an objective truth. Keep going. Let's keep making examples.
No. So the examples I just gave you were to show that moral disagreement is a phenomenon that occurs on all three
Because
theories.
there's an objective right and
No,
objective wrong.
no,
Even when
objective-
you try to do it subjectively, there's a subjective right and a subjective wrong. Even when you try,
hold on.
this is you're gonna fail to do so because inherently
subjective-
actions have values inherently in them.
Something that is subjectively true is not something that's objectively true. That's just going to be semantically the case.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
you-
semantics. I don't care about the semantics. I'm not gonna do a debate about the meta debate. I'm gonna debate the actual concern here, which is that humans are immoral and they are forever, and they don't know and they don't have a solution for this. They don't have a reference. They don't have a standard. The only standard that they're allowed is this objective entity. We just have to prove that
I'm
there's
sorry
an
to
objective
interrupt,
entity.
but I just
that's a
want to
different
point
argument.
out that we've had this conversation and I've explained it to him. You've explained it to him. He just keeps going back and saying that he's correct because he's trying to show that humans are immoral, but he isn't engaging on the question about whether or not objective morality even exists. This is the whole point of the debate. This is what we've been going over.
I personally don't even understand what the problem is if humans were amoral. Like, even by his definition, even if we are amoral, we seem to be doing a good job of it.
But I mean, even then, that is saying that there's an objective moral framework. I mean, he's just not engaging with anything that we're saying. He just keeps going back to the thing over and over again. It's just ridiculous. I mean, we've been doing this for an hour. I explained it to him. Josie, you just explained it to him, and the conversation was literally the same. It was the exact same conversation twice, and he's going to do it again with a third person, and I'm just not interested. If somebody's going to repeat the entire conversation twice, it just says that they're not really that interested in engaging and being honest. And so I'm just not interested in the conversation anymore. Maybe we can move on to a different point. I'm going to unmute him now, but if we just can't agree upon this point, if we're just disagreeing so fundamentally to where we're having the same conversation twice over and over and over again, I just don't want to hear
He's gonna
it for a
claim
third
he
time.
won. Like, I'm waiting.
That's fine if he says he
I
won, but I mean, I'm just not interested.
It's just kind of boring.
Hey,
I
Josie. Hey, I heard everything. Josie, you seem like a reasonable person. Did it seem to you that I did not engage with you, or I was bad faith in my engagement, or I didn't understand what you were trying to explain to me?
Yes, actually.
Okay,
It
can
does
you
seem.
describe
It does
why?
seem like it seems like you're very committed to your position, and you're not even listening to the critiques of it.
Can you explain why I was wrong, or why I didn't listen to you?
I'll give you an example. I'll walk you through it. So I made a point about moral disagreement under determining a moral theory. And then I gave you 3 examples of the same phenomenon in all 3 of those theories. And you then claimed that the example that I gave for the subjective moral theory having moral disagreement as a feature was actually just an example of an objective theory, right? So you basically just equivocated between objective and subjective so that you
Why
wouldn't
would
have
two
to
subjective entities disagree with one another if there's no objective
Because-
truth?
because in the subjectivist account of morality, what it means for a moral proposition to be true is that the agent uttering the proposition participates in the truth value of that proposition, right? Their attitudes, their beliefs, their desires.
does this have to
And
do
so
with
it makes
this?
perfect sense that 2 agents, right, could have different views
On
on
the same
what moral
action?
propositions are true.
the
Yes,
same
on the same
actual
action.
moral action?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. Because
but-
one person will be saying it's true in virtue of my attitudes towards it, and the other person will be saying it's false in virtue of my attitudes towards it.
wouldn't you, as a
neither one is saying.
consequentialist-
But hold on, here's the clincher. But neither one of them is saying that it's true or false in virtue of the way the world is. Right? They're referencing their mental content, not some feature in the world called moral objectivity.
Aren't you a consequentialist? Doesn't
No.
consequentialism rely on picking a truth?
So consequentialism is an objectivist view of morality.
But
Right?
aren't you a
Because it says that-
consequentialist?
No, I'm not. But a consequentialist will say that this moral statement is true in virtue of this analytic equivalence.
Aren't atheists consequentialists? Then how are you deriving any of your morality?
Most atheists, right, are going to be moral naturalists.
What's a moral naturalist? Define that.
Somebody that believes that there are moral facts and that those moral facts are also
So
natural
objective
facts.
realities. Holy shit. This is fucking crazy.
It's the majority.
This is
position
fucking
of
insane.
It's the majority position in philosophy.
Yeah, objectively, the majority is the objectivity to you, as close to objectivity as possible using unanimity. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I don't think you do.
It's just like talking to a child.
This is insane.
Yes.
You guys keep proving the objective rights exist and then tell me I'm not
No,
engaging. You're the ones that are fallacious.
Holy shit, dude.
I'm sorry.
We should call it quits at this point.
One more time. I'm just
I
gonna.
think you just need to keep him
Josie,
muted.
wait.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that. And he just.
I'm out of there. I'm not gonna listen to what they say.
Point whenever we're not. I'm just not. I don't think anybody else in the room is.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, you know.
It's a bit
You're just gonna keep me muted?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if anyone. I'm sorry, Josie, if you wanted to
No,
continue that
you're
conversation with him.
No,
but
I don't want to drone, in
Yeah,
the room. Just
I mean, I figured Josie might be able to talk some sense into him. I tried to talk some sense into him. Like, I tried to give him a kindergarten breakdown of like what the problem is. None of us can seem to get through to him. I think he's. I almost kind of feel like he's trolling, but.
I never put one
shocking
on
that
these
you could
guys.
Google half this shit.
manipulative, so
Why are they
you'd
banning
think
me?
you'd be able to manipulate them.
How am I manipulative?
Wow. Thank you, P. Mars. There's such negative commentary.
Well, I mean, nobody really listens to PMARS anyway.
I listen.
And once again, people like to go on Discord and take out their take out your childish frustrations on a Discord crowd rather than spend some time with a therapist.
Yeah, he's kind of a lolcow around here, around these parts.
I think P Mars is nice.
I like P
He's
Mars
nice
from
too.
time to time.
I've said this before. I would grab a beer with P. Mars.
Yeah, same.
P Mars, would you grab a beer with me?
Yeah, I would throw a beer at P. Mars.
What do you mean, a beer? That's the
Please don't mute me
fucking
and then
devil's
talk about me.
nectar.
This is crazy,
what the
bro.
fuck are you
The
guys
If you want
Bible
to talk
says
about being honest, let's
homosexuality
not
is
pretend
wrong.
humans are collective good job at anything.
Look, this is what I want to have a beer with you. I just want to hear one-liners all evening long, and every time you do a one-liner, I'll drink a shot.
Man, that sucks, man. Honestly, I was. What can I say, man? I engaged as best as I can. What the hell? Why am I sweating so hard, bro? Bro, I engaged as good faith as I can. Honestly, I couldn't engage in a better, more good faith way. Kanye West, you didn't see what happened, man. They muted me. Wash your pits. Yo, I got muted, Kanye West.